There has been global outrage ever since it was announced that the IDF had killed 7 aid workers that were in Gaza distributing aid and supplies as part of the World Central Kitchen. And now a spokesperson for the IDF is trying to respond to those concerns that people have expressed in this video.
I want to be very clear. The strike was not carried out with the intention of harming WCK aid workers. It was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night during a war in a very complex conditions. It shouldn't have happened.
I can agree with that part of the statement. The rest of it, I take a bit of issue with. Described there by the spokesperson for the IDF as a mistake. But was it a mistake? And I don't mean was it a mistake or was it intentional? It wasn't a mistake. It was, best case scenario, devil's advocate, many mistakes that all culminated in 7 people dying who were just there to save lives, to help people who are experiencing the unimaginable. And I wanna run you through a few of the things that make these not just one mistake, but many mistakes that led to these deaths. So the World Central Kitchen put out a statement just yesterday, and they said that the team was traveling in a deconflicted zone. So this is an area that, look, Gaza's a war zone, but this is an area that was not experiencing active combat. So it's already an area where you should be far safer than in others. So that's mistake number 1. Number 2 is they were in 2 armored cars and 1 unarmored vehicle. And those 2 armored cars, at the very least, were very clearly labeled as being aid vehicles, and they in particular had the World Central Kitchen logo on them, including on the roof. And as you'll see, that's where they were struck from. So that's number 2. They were dropping off more than 100 tons of food supplies at a warehouse. That's when the attack occurred. Mistake number 3, though, is that the movements of these 3 vehicles to get all of those supplies to the warehouse had already been coordinated with the Israeli military. So that's not even the end of the mistakes, but let's catch up there. So you have aid workers in an area that is not seeing active combat. They're in vehicles that is clearly marked as being aid vehicles, and the path that they're traveling on has already been communicated to the Israeli military that that's what they're going to do. It's already been okayed with them, and despite all of that, they're struck, okay? And you can see in this shot, precision strikes. Bear in mind, it's not one accidental hit either. As you can see on this map, they were in like relatively different locations when they were struck, as if this convoy had been previously identified and was now being tracked down across an extended area so that every vehicle that had been in part of this convoy would be destroyed. So at the very least, this is 6 mistakes, 7 mistakes that need to happen, all pointing in the same direction to result in these aid workers being killed. And that is hard to stomach. It's hard to understand. It's so bad that even Joe Biden is speaking out pretty forcefully against it. He says that Israel has not done enough to protect aid workers. I would say that that is true. I would say that that was true months ago. Thank you, Joe Biden, for catching up to the rest of the world. He does say that he is outraged and heartbroken over this. Okay, so those are his feelings. That's good. I want our politicians to have the right feelings and I want them to say the right things. And then 99% of how much I care about all of this is beyond that, what you do about it. And so we will remain waiting, to see what will be done. He says that the investigation from the Israeli government needs to be swift, bring accountability, and its findings must be made public. And I'm on the edge of my seat for what this report is gonna find. What is it gonna find? They said they made mistakes. That's what they said. I'm sure they'll add more details to that. There will be more adjectives. Maybe some, enlisted soldier will be thrown under the bus or something. What will it bring? I don't know. Benjamin Netanyahu has taken responsibility for the killings and expressed deep regrets. Okay, that's something. Again, feelings and words, which are better than nothing, slightly, not as good as action. How about this? How about stop anything like this happening from now on by dramatically and massively scaling back all of these indiscriminate attacks? You call them precise, but they're killing random innocent people constantly, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of them. So maybe don't do that anymore, and then you will not have to take responsibility for the killings. You will not have to experience the regret because there won't be future acts to regret. And the issue is, and we'll get into this in a moment, this is not even a multifaceted singular tragedy. This is just the most recent and perhaps the most public example of a type of tragedy of which we've seen many times. And we will get into that, but Sharon, I want to give you a chance to weigh in. What do you think about this?
There's just no escaping this. That is what I think. You just outlined a series of mistakes. You did a great job. There's a lot of those, and it must be tough for fellow aid workers, their families, to hear all of that. When you see the logo so prominently displayed, I don't know what they could have done differently. 3 separate precision strikes. If we can't do anything, if we can't do better than this, I guess I should say, then there can't be any more war. What happened to all the technology that was used? Israel and Netanyahu, who we've got to say is the person at the top here, is not making Israel any safer here. Every day that this continues, Israel's becoming less safe. There's more people who are perhaps people who weren't ever going to be against Israel, who are now standing up. They've lost loved ones and saying, we can't find the good here. It's urgent to dial this back.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, urgent is like the best we can hope for at this point. I would say a better time to be urgent was, literally months ago. And unfortunately, this is what we get right now. As I pointed out, this is, it's 7 people for a very notable charity that have died all at the same time. Very notable. It breaks through. And let's pause for 1 second just to acknowledge, I know everybody's doing this, but it can't be done enough. These are people who have already served in multiple areas of disaster, these different workers in multiple war zones. It is amazing sometimes, truly amazing, and deserves a little bit of attention. The breadth of what is possible for a human to be. Like sometimes you see like a really short person, a really tall person, and you think, man, humans can really come in very different forms. But morally and ethically, they can come in wildly different forms too. We cover on a daily basis on the Damage Report some of the most fundamentally to their marrow garbage people, almost all of whom hold positions of power and influence and are very, very wealthy people that have never done ever, singularly, or if you added up every good act that they've done in their life into one big pile, it does not equal out a group of people that see months of random civilian deaths in an area and say, I care so much about the people that are starving there that I'm gonna risk my life to go there. And they lose their life just desperately trying to help people that they don't even know. They can do that. And yet the people that we raise up to the most influential positions in our government, in our economy, in some cases in our culture, have never done the slightest little sliver of any of that. And yet they will live long lives of wealth and power. And these aid workers have died and are being remembered right now and will be remembered by friends and family. It is crazy that all of that is possible all at the same time. But as I said, while these 7 deserve to be acknowledged, they are by no means the only aid workers that have died in Gaza. In fact, as of March 20th, at least 196 have been killed there since October 7th, many of them Palestinian employees of the main UN relief organization there. And the reason that so many have died is because of mistakes, precision strikes on aid convoys, and bombing of distribution centers, and bombing of schools, and bombings of shelters, and bombing of refugee camps, and bombing of all the sorts of places that civilians and aid workers are supposed to be safe, but never have been from the very beginning of this conflict. And that is how you get literally hundreds of aid workers being killed, amongst, of course, over 32,000 people in total who've been killed in Gaza. And it is consequential that so many aid workers are being killed because what do you know, in the wake of this, some of the those working for the American Near East Refugee Aid, ANERA, that organization, they are suspending their operation in Gaza, saying that it is simply too dangerous at this point. And that sucks, but you kind of understand it though, don't you? They don't want their workers to be bombed, and people desperately need that help. In particular because the distribution of resources has been made so artificially difficult in Gaza. Did you know a report cited the fact that there were 1,000 containers of flour that had been purchased by the UN Relief and Works Agency for refugees in Palestine, those who had been moved from their homes in Palestine. It was enough to feed 1.5 million people for 5 months. That is a shocking amount of resources. And it had been stuck at a port in Israel for weeks and weeks as people literally starved to death. I don't mean they will starve to death. Sure, lots and lots of people are going to starve to death. They're starving to death now. There is an estimation that I saw that dozens of kids younger than 5 are already dying of starvation and preventable disease thanks to the breakdown of the infrastructure and the resources. That's not some hypothetical. That's not some, please, world, can we act or else this will happen? No, that's already been happening every single day. And look, as I said, obviously I have a massive amount of respect for those who work for the World Central Kitchen and lost their lives. And I think it makes perfect sense that people should be focusing on that. But also remember at the same time, lots and lots and lots of people are dying that you will never see their face and you'll never hear their name and you'll never learn their story. And all of that is happening every single day. So I don't know, like maybe Biden could do more than feel regret. Maybe Netanyahu could do more than take responsibility in some abstract fashion that doesn't modify military strategy. It's frustrating, Sharon. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, it is. Just quickly, military aid provided by, you're right. President Biden's statement after speaking to Chef Andres was harsh if you want to look at it in context, but what more can be done? And it's starting to feel like it's by design that we don't know those people who are now associated or soon will be with the word famine. As we hear just sporadic reports of mothers trying to feed their family grass. That's how desperate they are. It's sad. And finally, the privileged people you speak about, it's all that. And the fact that they're living so boldly, so out loud with their privilege while these people are literally dying second by second.
100%. Yeah, you're 100% right. Grass and bird food and chewing on leather just to sort of like get the body's symptoms of hunger to artificially go away for a little bit. And meanwhile, like people who are cheering on the killing they're eating fancy meals and they're in the lap of luxury. And we live in a wild world. It's a weird situation we've set up as a species, and that's what's going on. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.